Good morning, everybody. My name is Robert Brand, and I'm not sure if you've heard of me or seen my seminars or attended, but I talk about really just one topic in real estate, and that is how to disclose a property's condition in a way, verbally and also in writing on any form or whatever, that is, of course, accurate, but does not set you up for some kind of litigation problem because there's some verbiage we shouldn't use that an attacking lawyer is looking for. It's good not to have it. But anyway, by the way, I never go over time. So at 11 o'clock, we will be done. And if you ever have questions about this topic, I'll have my phone number displayed here somewhere, and you can call me anytime. There's no charge for that. I can email you an answer. So getting going here, it's a big topic. Actually, the majority of litigation against residential agents is on this topic of disclosure, red flag disclosure. So it's a big issue. Um, I always like to give a shout out to, I think it's probably the best known real estate speaker in California, Gov Hutchison, with Carr, and I occasionally have the privilege of sharing the stage with him. And excuse me, I've never met anybody that knows more about real estate than Gov. So anyway, if you've never seen him before, it's definitely worth it. Um, and because I do not sell anything whatsoever and do not charge companies for speaking, I am graciously sponsored by service providers, and they would like to say hello before they get on with their busy days and or busy day. And let's see. Um, okay, Michael called me. He's in a meeting. I don't see him here.
You
There
don't
he
see
is.
me?
There he is. I do see him there, and he looks like you're in your Bentley driving through Beverly Hills. So um, go right. We can hear you fine. Go right ahead. And Michael's with Elite.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Just to set the record straight, I'm in a 2022 Ionic, so um, working
Yeah,
my way up to the Bentley.
yeah.
I have the privilege of working for the number one property inspection company in the nation, Elite Group Property Inspections. So, guys, we have 60 inspectors. We don't just do home inspections, commercial and residential and industrial. We do sewer line inspections, mold inspections, roof inspections, including roof certifications. We inspect solar panels. We do soils testing. We do just about everything, including the balcony testing, the SPF 326, which is very important. You got to get those done before you get the appraisal done. We work 7 days a week. My inspectors only do 2 inspections a day each, so they can talk to your clients and give them all the information that they want to have. And number two, for the agents, we upload that report the next day. Most of you will call me and say, I need an inspection in a couple of days and I need the report right away. I'll get it to you in about 48 hours. So I'll put all my information in the chat. Again, Michael Johnson with the Elite Group Property Inspections. Our office number is 800-494-8998. And I will give you my cell number in the chat, but it is 949-300-5932. I book about 15 inspections from my phone every day, so you can reach out
Hmm.
to me with any questions. So thank you very much for the
Yeah.
time, and you guys have a great meeting.
Great, great. And you're a great contact for Elite, great inspection company. And Heidi's here with First American Home Warranty. And if you could unmute and say hello.
Hi, everybody. I'm at a golf tournament today. Not actually golfing, but sponsoring. So you'll hear helicopters. But Heidi with First American Home Warranty. I'm the North Orange County rep. We also have Kevin Wool and Rosie Poole, who are also Orange County as well. Rosie does South, and Kevin kind of does Central. So we kind of have you all, together here. So if you need anything, please feel free to reach out. We've got brochures that we can send to you via PDF. So reach out to me and I can put my information in the chat. So you
Okay.
can just shoot me an email and I can get that over to you. But basically, just make sure you're putting on those home warranties on the RPA just for your clients, because I tell you, when AC season comes around and they realize they don't have a warranty and they try to place a claim, they get a little upset. So,
Yeah.
but the home warranty is a little different than home insurance. We cover the major systems and appliances.
Yeah.
So, your plumbing, electrical, water heaters, furnaces, ACs, all that fun stuff. We've been around for a very long time, and we're happy to help anytime. So, thanks for having me here.
Thank you. Just if I could recommend a change, you could say with your background, I'm in one of my homes in Hawaii, and
Oh,
and
yes.
that was okay.
Right. I'm in one of my homes in Hawaii. I'm like, you don't
Okay,
want to
yeah.
see the golf course I'm at.
Okay, yeah. Okay, thank you, Heidi.
Thanks, guys. Have a
Great
good
to,
one.
yeah, thank you. And not the last, but the third sponsor and the only other one I have today is Legal Services of America. They have just provide a phenomenal service that personally I have no financial interest in this, but I think everybody should be utilizing them. But go ahead, Virgil.
No, thank you, Mr. Brand. Good morning, Orange County Association of Realtors. My name is Virgil Flores. I own Legal Services of America. Hope you can hear me okay.
Yeah, okay, a little bit up. Yeah, you're fine.
And the reason I'm here today is to talk to you about our homeowners risk management system that's designed to prevent over 99%, that's our track record, of any threat of lawsuit from ever rising to the level where you have to hire an attorney or turn it over to your errors and omissions insurance. It's important work that we do. We know that realtors in California are the second most sued industry, believe it or not, second only to doctors. And the way that we have found to prevent lawsuits is by providing the buyer and seller with their own risk management system. They now have, as a benefit for choosing you as their realtor, a lifetime of legal peace of mind, which is mediation post close, and that goes on forever. Also, we don't think that the agent should be giving legal advice. And of course, with the complexity and all the legalese and these documents, now when the buyer or seller has a legal question, as part of your team, we'll bring in a real estate attorney to help you close that transaction and remove those roadblocks and get the folks into escrow. There's no cost for our services. And now my agents tell me it's become a huge differentiator between them and their competition. Please call me at any time. I put the information in the chat. Mr. Brand, thank you for all you do for our industry.
Yeah, and thank you. And likewise, and it is a really phenomenal service. I encourage everybody to take a look at Virgil's information that's available to you. So let's get going here. I'm sorry, let me get this thing straight here. Bang, bang, bang. One more. Okay. I'm just going to go through lots of different topics. I never go over time. I'm not sure if I've mentioned this. This is somewhere between my 30th and 35th year doing this. And it's my only topic, and I do it only in California because it's only here in California that the agent's responsibilities are as strict as they are when it comes to property condition issues. So, starting just with the visual inspection and something a form we're all familiar with, reasonably competent and diligent visual inspection of the property. And a question that may come up is the agent's inspection really limited only to visual? I mean, you would think that by looking at the wording on the form, but the answer is actually no. It's really more than that. Visual inspection in court tends to be interpreted, or not tends to be, is interpreted as any sensory perception. So it could be an unusual odor in the home. It could be a noise issue. It could be like an uneven floor that when you look at it, like an upstairs hallway, it looks okay, but when you walk on it, you can tell it's a little bit off. So it's really more than visual, even though that's what the form actually says. And the two examples, one I mentioned, the uneven floors, or there's a very strong, perhaps unusual odor in the home, and you have some suspicion about, is it like mold, or what is it? We never want to identify what it is, but these are two categories that are not really necessarily visually observed. The second one certainly is not. And even uneven floors, you don't know they're uneven until you're walking on them, essentially. So it is a multi-sensory type of inspection, although it's limited. It's not a home inspection, it's limited. Two categories are all we're concerned about in our relatively brief agent's visual inspection, which is, again, differentiated from a professional home inspection that may take a couple of hours. And those two categories are defects and red flags. A defect, this is all pretty simple stuff I'll start with. All of it's simple, but I'll start with the easiest. Let's say you're in the kitchen and the window's broken. And you happen to know, because maybe it's your listing, that some kid threw a rock at the window or something like that. No matter how it got there, regardless of any other situation or circumstances, a proper disclosure, and this is not divinely inspired, but something along this line, cracked window, not a big crack, not a small crack, never how it got there, just kitchen window above sink is cracked. That's all. We want to keep it as brief as we can because there's less chance of argument. The red flag, now, by the window, I know there's something wrong with it. But here, say family room, ceiling, I know that water, it may not have been water, it could have been something else, but there's a stain on the ceiling. And I don't know if it's active or not. I don't need to know when it comes to disclosure, like the transfer disclosure statement or the AVID. A great disclosure here, and what I say is not divinely inspired. You can, don't have to say it exactly as I do, but just stain noted at family room above window or, wherever it is. Again, not big stain, never water stain, and maybe something else, or no history to it, just stain noted. Not big, again, not big, not small, just stain. The fewer words, the better, because there's less chance of an argument. A lot of challenges out there. I will mention just a couple of them, just for sake of time. But let's say I'm in the den or living room or something, and I notice a ceiling fan there. Well, some agents will mention ceiling fan noted, but because it's not a defect or red flag, it doesn't really need to be mentioned. It may be mentioned in like inventory for the sale, but it's not a disclosure issue. So we want to stay away from calling out things that do not appear to be faulty. We don't have to say it works because maybe it doesn't, but that's another topic. But just mentioning it, not a good idea. Then the AVID gets filled up with all kinds of information that it's not really meant for. Or like a spider web. Now, this may sound like an exaggeration, but after doing this for 32 years and looking at zillions, if that's a word, of disclosure documents, there are plenty of agents that will say there's several spider webs noted, but a spider web is not a defect or a red flag. If there were, 100 of them in the room, I'd probably say something, but generally here or there, not worth mentioning, not really in the realm of disclosure. And by the way, I'll probably mention this again, but if you ever have a question while you're filling out any kind of disclosure document, you're always, and there's no charge in this, you can call me, get my opinion, take it or leave it or whatever, but I'm always willing to help if I can. And then if you're, let's say, the living room and you look around and there's really, looks okay, we don't want to say it looks okay. That's a compliment. We're not there to compliment the property or to advertise it. But the best expression I've seen in my decades of doing this, just nothing noted. Probably all of you use that term, but I don't want to say there are no problems in this room, but just nothing noted in terms of my scope of care and the kinds of things that I'm actually looking at and looking for. So a few points on the visual inspection. And I may have already mentioned this, but if you have a question, put it in wherever the question area is, or you can just interrupt, and I'm more than happy to help if I can. And also, if I haven't mentioned this already, I do this all the time. I forget what I've already said. If you ever have a disclosure question, you can call me up or email me. I'm glad to help. So what do you do when the home is in pristine condition, which you wouldn't think would be a problem, and it really isn't a problem, but you're filling out a disclosure document like the TDS, the AVID, and you think, there's nothing to say. It looks okay. Short of breaking a window or something. I'll take Southern California. That's where I live, and I know you live there, here rather. Most homes have, like on the left, like we would call stucco siding, um, or wood siding. Some of them brick, like it could be a wall, it could often a chimney, and then a pavement or your driveway or whatever, like on the right. It is really hard here in Southern California to find these surfaces with no cracks at all. Now, the cracks often don't mean anything, but if you want to kind of establish that you were there and did look around, something, a great phrase, and you'll get this in the notes you'll get later. I like the word some cracks noted at driveway. Now, you're not saying they're horrible or they need to be fixed or be careful or something. Now, if the buyer's really particular, may say, "Oh, crack, I didn't notice those." And they drive by the property and look and they say, "Oh, those are just hairline cracks." And that's fine, nothing's going to happen. But this is more when you can't find anything at all, because usually these surfaces will have cracks. Most of the time, I would say 95 or more percent of the time, they're meaningless. They really are part of the settling process. But we don't want to call them settling cracks because settling is a more of like a geological term, and we don't want to get into that. So I like some cracks noted at wherever you see them, like exterior siding and backyard patio. And if you're wondering, where do I write this down on the form? Well, if you haven't found a place to write it on the Avid somewhere else. There's always other observed or known conditions at the end of it. So that works really well. And every now and then I'll look at the chat room to see if there are any questions, but feel free to unmute if you can and interrupt me if I don't get to your hand up or whatever. Okay, stating the obvious, interesting topic here. Let's say you have the buyers and you're showing them properties, and that they're going to, let's say they're going to do the deal on this property. Some agents, and I've been doing this a long time, I've looked at, I want to say zillions, but I'll say hundreds of disclosure documents. Some agents won't disclose the school because they stood there in the yard with their client and they talked about the school and the client's kids are going to go there and all that. So I've already talked about it, but there's no record of talking about it. So a great disclosure for something like this, think about it for a moment. You could say it's noisy at when the kids are arriving at school, noisy when they're leaving, recess, depending, I guess, what kind of grade level. But usually when there's a school that's used nearby it or not nearby, it's utilized on weekends too. You know, either neighbors are using it or they have, a basketball team or something like that. So we want to keep our disclosure really simple and not anticipate what could possibly happen. And something just simply like school noted across the street from this property is sufficient. It, those wordings are not divinely inspired. They don't have to be exactly that, but just letting the client know in writing in our disclosure form that it's there. We don't want to omit it because it's so obvious, because having done this for 3 decades, I've seen buyers in litigation go into court and say, Your Honor, we fell in love with the house. We blocked everything else out, and we didn't even notice, there was a school across the street. So we want to make a mention of it, but, we don't want to do much more than that. Where are we here? I-10, probably near downtown, home very close by. The buyer's interested in this home. It looks like they're going to move forward on it. There would certainly be a disclosure, but it would, you could go on and on. Like there are people, vagrants or whatever, hanging around the on-ramp, and there are problems there, and there's it's noisier at rush hour than it is during the day, and all kinds of things. But usually a generic disclosure, just now, a freeway like this, big one, you would think nobody's going to miss it, and probably nobody will. But just this property is located adjacent to a freeway, or freeway on-ramp adjacent to the property, period. Just what you see, not what could possibly happen. A lot of agents include scenarios that the buyer, well, the sellers too, but the buyers may experience, but you'll never run out of scenarios. So just usually mentioning what is there is sufficient. And I'm not sure if it was mentioned, maybe it already was, but I'll send some seminar notes to the association and then they can forward them on to you. And I'm pretty sure I covered that there. This is well, it's a shopping center, some stories behind it, but I'll keep it brief. There are 5 buildings like this. The far one, there's a Target, kind of like the anchor store, and they have got that, and they got 3 more buildings of miscellaneous businesses. On the far right, they've got another, it's not Target, but another large store. Anyway, above that or behind it, you see houses. Now, if you're involved in one of these properties, the first mistake that we can make is that I've got prospective buyers, we're in the backyard, and they look down, they see, oh, there's a shopping center there. They may either say, well, I'm not going to buy this house, or they may say, boy, this is convenient, this is great, or whatever. But, there are deliveries behind there. Target actually, which is at the far left, they have deliveries 24 hours a day. That ended up into a lawsuit where the seller said that deliveries stop at 6 p.m., but for Target, they don't. I'm not sure about other stores. So we have to be careful of the wording and usually keeping it, less information is often better. But the point here, you're involved with one of these properties, you have the buyers. Sometimes we may think, well, they've been in the backyard maybe 3 or 4 times. They've looked over the fence, pointed out stores. Oh, I'm glad that's there. It's easy to get to or whatever. Um, we we don't want to say too much, but we don't want to ignore it completely. Well, they've seen the shopping center, the buildings. Well, maybe later on they're going to say they didn't, or their attorney will say you didn't. Just shopping center located adjacent to this property, period. Better not to make a list of it's noisy during the morning or especially on Saturdays, or there are delivery trucks. Of course, there are delivery trucks. Every shopping center has them. And as I mentioned, Target has them 24 hours a day. That's been an issue. But if it's disclosed, then it's not going to or shouldn't be an issue. But the point here is even when something is really, really obvious, it's not an insult to the client's ability to see things to just simply write it down to disclose it. Okay, let's go here. So yes, disclose the obvious. That's a quicker way to say it. Okay. And then when we're disclosing something near the property, which we've just touched on, but a little more detail, in my opinion, it's always best to disclose what is there, never details of what may bother the buyers about what is there, because every buyer is different and some things bother some people and they don't bother other people and all of that. So, for example, there is a freeway near the house, period. Now, some in our business, because I've been doing this a long time statewide and I've looked at more disclosure forms than I could ever count, some agents get into too many details, like it's only busy during rush hour in the morning and afternoon. Well, if somebody's never lived really close to a highway or a freeway, they're going to hear it all the time. And they get used to it maybe, but it's going all the time. So a disclosure like this that is incredibly obvious, we don't want to ever get into details. This particular disclosure, there's a freeway near the house, is perfectly fine. We just don't want to add to it, like it's particularly noisy during rush hour, or blown out tires fly off the freeway. That's a given because sometimes they do. And in the notes you'll get, I'll have more clarification on that. Or a school is close to this property. That's good to know. Now, they've been there, they've seen it. But, schools have weekend activities, evening activities. They're used for, maybe the local neighborhood basketball game on Saturday. There's all kinds of applications for it. But my main point is here is no matter how obvious something is, and you think, well, I don't want to insult their intelligence, but no matter how obvious it is, we still want to make a disclosure. We don't have to get into details that might insult their intelligence, but just writing it down. And even if you have a buyer that's argumentative and they say, well, you disclosed there's a school close to the property. We were there, we saw it. Yeah, they'll say that. But if it's in court and they're under the advisement of their attorney, and maybe they're not really into telling the truth, they may say, we were so captivated by the view from the backyard, we didn't even notice that there was a school there or whatever. So we still need to and should make what seem like overly obvious disclosures about something near the property, but better not to make a list of specifics because if we say it's noisy in the morning, well, maybe it's noisy in the afternoon, or we subdivide it, we're going to leave something out. Just the blanket statement, it's there, takes care of the disclosure issues that could develop. Okay, so a shop and here a good one would be there's a shopping center located behind this property. As obvious as it is, and if you have the buyers and they say, well, we know we were standing there at the fence with you, we saw it. Yeah, they'll say that now, but if they sue later and their attorney will advise them to say never admit to that conversation. Pretend like you, not all will say this, but some will, pretend like you only looked at the house inside and nobody mentioned anything about the shopping center or whatever, which could be a plus or minus to the buyers. Who knows, what their personal preference is. And if I haven't mentioned already, if you ever have a disclosure question or how to fine tune it or just want to bounce it off of somebody like me, you can contact me. There's no charge at all. I'm more than happy to do what I can to help. So rough draft disclosure to a final disclosure. The technique does not cost anything. You don't have to download anything, and it takes half a minute or whatever. So let's say I'm in the kitchen, and to the left of the refrigerator wall, I see a couple of stains like this. Now, if it was just you and I were friends and were there, I'd probably say, well, looks like maybe mold. It's black, and there's kitchen. There's water moving through behind the walls. That would be a conversation, but it's not disclosure oriented. So let's start with because I look at zillions of TDSs and AVIDs and so forth. And this is pretty elementary, I realize, but let's just clean this up. 2 small black mold stains noted. I would bet just about anything, if I was a betting guy, that that's true, but I'd never write it down as a disclosure because maybe even though I have 2, maybe there's another speck over here that somebody would count as 3. So I get rid of 2, get rid of small, get rid of black, I got to get rid of mold. And I end up with an ideal disclosure that says everything that needs to be said. Stains noted at left of, at the wall, left of refrigerator. I don't associate them with kitchen or not, with water, with anything, just stains noted, because that's all I can see. And stain is a good generic term. So we just get rid of the problematic words, and each one of those can get us, each one of those is like an hour in court just explaining it. So better not to have it that way. Okay, that's rough draft to final disclosure. Should you disclose wear and tear items? These are things that are just part and parcel of living in a house, and because people are living in it, there's going to be some wear and tear. So examples: peeling paint, wallpaper, scuff marks at the baseboards, whatever, carpets, especially in the hallway, faded, dirty, worn, whatever. And because the house is being lived in, and these are normal aspects of what's in a house, there's usually no disclosure for these observations. If it's brand new, got to be even careful of that term. I'm sensitive to brand new because my last name is Brand, has nothing to do with the topic. But it's easy for me to remember, obviously. I'd always stay away from the term brand new. It could be debated, is it new or is it brand new? I've seen that debated in court, and nobody wins in that. But usually, no disclosure for what we might call normal wear and tear. I wouldn't write down normal wear and tear because I don't want to use the word normal. That's a litigious word for me to use, and it's not necessary. But the lived in kind of stuff that you just notice, or conditions, usually no disclosure. It's not a brand new home and all that. If you start disclosing just the wear and tear kinds of things, then you have to disclose all of them. So I'd be very, very careful about that. Um, okay, let me move on. I was looking at the questions and no questions. And what happens, by the way, when we get into detail, there's just too much in the Avid. We go into addendums, and there's rarely, maybe if it's a 10,000 square foot home with all kinds of problems, we do addendums, but usually we can get all of it on the form. What about taking photos during the visual inspection? Photography is a controversial issue as to who's taking pictures, and certainly advertising, there's going to be photography, but even that's got to be monitored carefully and not doesn't misrepresent anything. But I'll give you my opinion from a disclosure standpoint. First of all, as part of your usual due diligence, avid related minimal inspection of the property, no photography. It's not required. It's not suggested. There is absolutely no upside to taking photos when they're not required. So this is just filling out the Avid. There's other times when there may be a different answer, but not for the AVID. Even like that pretty bad looking crack on the bottom. Of course, I would never write down pretty bad looking crack, but to document it that way, which sounds good. Like I want to document what it was like when I was there, but photography is not required. And I have never come across, I do this out throughout California. I only do it in California because no other company, I'm sorry, no other state has the rules we do. But I've never seen anybody recommend photography by the agent during the visual inspection. So it is visual. It's not visual with photos, it's just visual. And that places a good limitation on it and lessens our liability. Okay, and well, we can see that right there on the form. Competent and diligent visual inspection. So we all know that. And if you did take pictures, I can guarantee, and you get sued, having done this for 3 decades, I can tell you, for the opposition, you never took enough pictures. It's like you took a picture of this and that. You didn't take a picture over there because it didn't look too good, and you didn't want to have any record of it to have all these accusations. But since photography is not required, it's better not to do it at all, and then they can't come at you for that. Now, there is an exception, very common one. We've all encountered this, the messy garage. Often the garage has been okay, but or neat or whatever, but the sellers know they got to be moving soon, and they got a bunch of stuff in the house, and the garage becomes the repository for all of it. So if you were to encounter this, which is not unusual, by the way, fairly common, especially getting, let me back up, I'm sorry, getting close to closing. Just a second, get back on the track here. Okay, well, anyway, a garage like that, just say unable to inspect due to extensive personal belongings. That's a good way to go. Okay, we never want the buyer to be surprised. That's a good maxim, a good statement. This is a empty lot in the San Diego area. And there's a story here, and it happened a long time ago. I don't think the homeowners are even there anymore. But the home that you see there, or the roof, is part of about maybe 20, 25 homes that are similar. It's like a development. You really can't see it with all the trees. So out-of-state buyers moved in there, really no disclosure from the seller. And on the first day in, or first evening, or whatever, they're relaxing, enjoying their new home. and they heard a really loud noise. In fact, three times, three balloons a day, or hot air balloons, whatever they call them, are launched from there every single day of the year. And they are setting them up. We've all probably seen this. Maybe takes 45 minutes. So it's not hours long, but there's three of them, different companies. They stagger it out, and it's incredibly loud. The problem is that the buyers were never told about this. It was never disclosed. And this is an unusual thing that nobody would expect. The buyers had every right to say, well, there's nobody behind us. We won't have a noise problem with the neighbor. And then they come up with this or find this. So, there we are, there's a second balloon up. And again, there's three a day. So on this particular topic, when representing the seller, a good thing to ask is, and even if you know the answer, get their opinion. Is there anything about this property that the neighbors are going to tell the buyers? That's a good question because, I won't be there, you won't be there, agents. They're talking amongst themselves, and the buyers are going to wonder, do you have any information about the neighborhood, anything I should know? Just think it through. Is there anything that the neighbors are going to tell the buyers about? And if it may be incidental, like, the weather's really nice or something, like we don't need that. But if it's something like, oh yes, hot air balloons are launched behind your house, or something maybe not that major, sometimes it's revealed in a discussion like that. So it's good thing to keep in mind for limiting liability. I'm going to skip over this really quickly. Well, let me just back up here if I can get it. Having a problem with my computer. Well, anyway, tarp on I forget what you just saw, tarp on a roof. It's hard to believe, but it was true. I was involved with it. There was a leak in the roof there getting into the garage, and hard to believe, the seller would have this tarp up there. But when they put their home on the market, they took the tarp down and didn't do anything about the hole or two holes in the roof. So anyway, when the buyers move in, if you're familiar with that area, which we should be if we're doing a deal there, and we see this, it's good to investigate it. What's going on? Why is it there sometimes? Why not other times? And in this particular case, the buyers moved in, the roof leaked into the garage, and they got to know the neighbors. And the neighbors said the reason why they didn't tell you about it is because they put a tarp on there. They put a tarp on there every time rain was predicted. So, good to look into things when you need to, or talk to neighbors when you need. Usually we don't like to consult neighbors, but they walk over to see what's going on, and you can have some kind of conversation. So a great question when we're representing the seller is there anything about this property, a really serious moment, anything about this property, when the neighbors move in, they're going to hear about it. And whether everybody likes everybody on the block or they don't, or regardless of that, what are the buyers going to be told or informed about the property when they move in? That may not be something that's disclosed, and you may learn something that they ought to know, the client ought to know about. Okay, a good idea to avoid completing the AVID during the home inspection. A big mistake that a lot of agents make is they're doing the AVID, and it can be either side of the deal, and the home inspector happens to be there doing it's usually he, doing their home inspection, and they're more invasive than we are. They're looking under cabinets and going up in the attic or getting a good look at it or whatever, things that we don't do. So not a good idea to be doing the AVID at the same time as the home inspection, because they're more invasive. I don't mean destructive, but invasive in what they do, different standard of care. They're going to come across things that warrant a disclosure that we would never even see, and therefore never need to disclose, because you got to open up the closet or open up the doors or get up in the attic or whatever. So a good idea to not, let me just back up here. A good idea to, I'll keep it here, to not follow the home inspector around when they're doing their inspection. Nothing good can come from it. So I may skip over this here. Let me go back here. Yeah, I'm going to skip over this. Kind of a long story, but anyway, I'll just mention something briefly. This was a real case where there was this painting on the wall, and we normal well, offices and companies, real estate firms differ on this, but usually the agents are advised not to move things out of the way, including paintings or big photographs or whatever. And so in this particular case, the agent did not move it and therefore did not see the really bad stain that I just showed you. And so if with where you hang your license, you're not required to move things, and generally you aren't required to move things because that's more just California real estate law. You could be in this room, especially if let's say you have the listing or you've got the buyers and the buyers aren't there and you're by yourself. Well, even by yourself, you don't want to move things out of the way that you wouldn't move out of the way if your client was standing there. Just kind of keep it the same. No obligation, no liability, because the only way of seeing that stain and the cracks and all that would be to gain access to the visibility part of moving that painting or picture off the wall. And I don't have to. So that is an out, a innocent out. It's not a deceptive one. It's just not part of my job. So we want to kind of stay, not kind of, but we want to stay within our standard of care. So always a good idea, in my opinion, to complete the AVID prior to the home inspection, if you possibly can. I know sometimes, if you're on the listing side, you can do it anytime. You're friends with your client who you listed their home. When you have the buyer, there's a little bit more litigation orientation for the buyer's agent because of when they're there and all that. And when their buyers are present because they're excited about the home and they want to be there and look around, and the home inspector's there, that's kind of a recipe for disaster. You want to separate them out because the home inspector, again, is going up in the attic. I'm not going up in it. If I have the buyers, they're not going up in it, meaning I have no responsibility for what might be up there. And that's a better position to be in. It's not because anything's being hidden, but there's got to be constraints on what we're liable for, and that's a good one to keep in mind. If you want to get in and do your visual inspection, your AVID inspection, but you keep getting put off because the sellers say, and this could be either side of the deal, oh, we're just about to have that fixed. The thing you want to mention that you want to disclose, the handyman's coming or the carpenter's coming by. If you see it, observe it, you can hear it, you can smell it, whatever, it's multisensory. It's a good idea to disclose it. Now, if the handyman or the carpenter's really coming over and you're sure of it, you may want to, factor that in. So I have more on the notes that you'll have more on that. Then days later, a good idea when you have the buyers to attend if they want to be there, and sometimes they really want to be there and their kids want to follow the home inspector around. We don't want anybody to get in the home inspector's way, but you've already done your AVID. That's completed. Your job is done. So when the home inspector's there, it's a good idea, and you're going to be there too. Don't follow the home inspector around. Sit at the kitchen table or something and get some work done. You've already stayed within your standard of care. You haven't gone up in the attic. You haven't moved things out of the way, and you shouldn't have. And that's good that you don't, because it lessens your liability. You never know what the home inspectors are going to do, but they have a different standard of care than we do. And they're responsible for finding more things than we do because they move things out of the way. So anyway, that more in the notes on that. So avoid completing the AVID during the home inspection if you possibly can. And usually that's doable, but you got to be careful. Just what do we have here? 12 minutes. I never go over time. I know we started a few minutes late, but I'll be done by say 5 after. I'll compromise. Home inspectors in California are not licensed. You will never hear or should never hear a professional home inspector in California say, I'm a licensed home inspector. And they may be licensed to drive a car or do something else, but they're not licensed to inspect homes. I think, I have not kept count, but 28, 30, 32 states license home inspectors. They have tests they go through, peer review. We don't. Anybody can call themselves one. It's good idea to keep in mind. It's nice to look for when you're trying to find on the buyer side, you're trying to find or refer them to a good home inspector. Now you may already have a list that you use and they're all good, but something to look for are professional certifications. Since there's no licensing, anybody can be a home inspector. There are classes they can take. There are home inspection organizations, not government, but just like a club or something or whatever, that it's good if they belong to them because they have meetings and peer review and all that kind of thing. Something to look for, and I'll have this on the notes so you don't have to memorize it, but if they're a member of, on the far left, CREA, California Real Estate Association, they're actually not only a member, but they are certified by CREA. That's really good. It's hard to get there. There's testing involved. Pretty much the same thing with a national organization, ASHI, or American Society of Home Inspectors. InterNACHI is another. There's some others, and there'll be more in the notes on that. But it's good to look for those things when you're selecting, or rather, your client is doing the selection, but you may be helping find the home inspector. And not speaking of, but addressing E&O insurance, it's important that home inspectors have E&O, and they should be able, if you're not sure or your client's not sure, they should be able to produce evidence of E&O real fast by calling their office. Could you text me, not fax, I guess here, text me the certificate of E&O. It should take ideally 3 to 5 minutes to do that. And if they can't do it, maybe they don't have E&O and they're not usually a good selection as a home inspector, one that you would recommend. You're not picking them, but one that you would recommend. That's an important thing. Errors and omissions, it can save the day for all of us. Proof of E&O insurance should be immediately available, even out in the field, even at the house, and even if the home inspector forgot to bring documentation of it, or they just don't bring it with them. It should be readily available. So professional certifications are good because we're just unregulated. There's no licensing for home inspectors. Several states, as I mentioned, as you may know, do. If they have a license, that means they've passed tests. They've had peer review, but we don't have that in California. I would think, I live here. I would think we'd be the first kid on the block on this, but not even close. And also the last one, when you have the buyers, and they're usually the ones wanting the home inspection, obviously, they're the ones that should choose the home inspector. Now, sometimes they'll say, well, hey, I live in Wyoming, and I'm moving to Irvine or something. I don't know who does this. It's good that CREA, in the notes you'll have the website. Think of that website. Put in the zip code, there's a whole list of home inspectors that have been tested by that private organization, not government. And it's kind of tough to become a member and to be one in good standing. It's a good clearinghouse, but it's always important that the client choose the home inspector. If they say, hey, we live in Kentucky, we're moving out here, we don't know who does this, and you give them a list, and I've seen agents even do this. Here's a list of 15 home inspectors. My clients have used all of them. They all appear to be good, but I'm not comfortable picking that individual for you. And they may say, number nine, pick number nine. We'll do that. And then even if you're involved in making a call or placing an order, better not to be, but if you are, the client, it should be established that the client chose the home inspector. Like to Mr. and Mrs. Client, per your request, I contacted XYZ Home Inspection. Fred is the home inspector. He'll be there tomorrow at 2 o'clock or something like that. What kind of distance yourself from it? Um, okay, let me just back. Okay, well, I won't back up. Um, a property near a golf course. And that's in the transaction. One mistake that agents make, and I look at, I've been doing this a long time, and I've looked at all kinds of disclosure documents. They won't mention the golf course because it's like, well, the buyers have been there 3 times. They like to play golf or whatever, even if they don't. But they've been there 3 times, and the house in the middle is the one they want. Well, do I have to tell them there's a golf course there? And the answer is yes. They can go into court and say, Your Honor, we were so we don't golf, and we were so captivated by this property that we didn't even notice what was around it. We didn't know if there was a street there, or a store there, shopping center, or even a golf course. So even when things are really obvious, you have to criticize it, nothing but criticize, just a golf course adjacent to the freeway, golf course adjacent to the property noted. Just that simple, meaning anything and everything that could possibly bother the buyer when they move in is in that disclosure. Things like errant golf balls that smash through a window or, break something, and just the noise and whatever goes with, I don't golf, but whatever happens with golf course. So rough draft, 1 or 2 golf balls a week hit the house. Even if that's true, it's too specific. Better to go with golf balls occasionally hit the house. If you have a really picky buyer, okay, we've had 3 golf balls this week hit our patio or something. Better to have it occasionally, meaning it does happen, but I'm not going to give you a number because I'm not counting them, that kind of a thing. Better way to go. Okay. Oh, I will do an advertisement for myself. I don't have any slides for this, but before we're almost out of time here, if you would like me to do this for your office, no charge. I do not sell anything whatsoever. Sponsored like I was today. You can invite me, and I will, depending on my travel schedule, either do it by Zoom or I live in Southern California, and I can usually show up in person, and there's no charge, no catch, or whatever for that. Tell you a quick story on this. This is a young couple, no kids, both had kind of high-level professional jobs, and they worked out of their homes, and they were moving from, I don't know where. They're moving to Southern California. They told their agent, we would like to be preferably on a cul-de-sac because we don't want to hear traffic noise. We work out of our homes. Great weather here. We'd like to have our windows open. We have our own offices in the house upstairs or wherever. And could you find us at the end of a cul-de-sac, a home, so there's no through traffic? This home was located, and they ended up purchasing the home. So the story to go from there is see the house on the right, there's a hedge there. Well, actually, if you were to, and I've done this, if we were to get a ladder, climb over that hedge, there is also behind it another one, not quite as neatly trimmed, but another one. And right on the other side of that is Interstate 5. So it's really close to a freeway. The clients had asked, we don't want to be near a highway or a freeway. We leave our windows open. We work out of our home. We don't want the noise. The agent was not from that area and actually did not know that Interstate 5, and that's what they said in court, was actually there. And so, but the agent still took the fall for it. I won't get into the whole deal here. But when a client has a specific request that kind of requires local information, and if this is your farm area or whatever, you could probably help them. But if it's outside of your geographical area, you usually deal in, it's good to get some help from an agent that knows the area better. So traffic noise noted. Here's a interesting rough draft. Traffic noise noted from adjacent freeway during morning and afternoon rush hour periods. We'll just kind of clean this up. Better to drop off the latter part because that could be argued. They may say, we hear traffic all the time. We moved here from the country, never heard cars go by. We hear them all the time, and not just during the morning and afternoon. That's what we were counting on, but it's 24 hours a day. So adding details to a disclosure that limit it, generally not a good idea. Okay, let me check something here. Let's see where we're going to go. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, you just saw the form. I'm having some technical problems here. Neighborhood noise problems or other nuisances. Keep in mind that for what one person is music, to another person is a terrible noise, and barking dogs is in that category. On that form, it's the seller who is filling it out. I'm having a technical difficulty with the program here, but at the very top, are you, the sellers, aware of any of these things? And there are things that sellers would be aware of. Noise problems or other nuisances. Keep in mind, barking dogs is a good example. Is not asking you what you think or the buyer about how they feel. It's asking the sellers, does this bother you? And if they used to have a German Shepherd that died 3 years ago, the barking German Shepherd's probably not going to bother them. They're not lying. It really doesn't bother them. So they would answer that question, no. Now, most people would say yes, because the dogs bark all the time. Just keep in mind, it's coming from the seller. It's not coming from you or the agent on the other side. It's coming from the seller, and it's their opinion. And if you see something that, if you have the buyer, that would bother most people, you almost have to forget about what the seller's opinion is. If you're aware of it, and sometimes you're not, you don't live there, and so you're not going to get the point or find the point. But when you have the opportunity, just keep in mind, there's a mistake a lot of agents make. They think, does this bother anybody? But it's not that. At the very top is about the seller's opinion, not anybody else's. And you can probably see that I'm having some visual difficulties on my screen, but you can probably see that there. Okay, let's move. Come on, move along here. So you have neighbors, proverbial next door neighbors. And there's a dog next door. And they could either say that dog is driving us crazy, it barks all the time, if they're asked about it, or rather, they could say, we love hearing it. It's a German Shepherd or Collie. We used to have one. We really miss our dog. So every time it barks, 3 in the morning or whenever, we love hearing it. You never know what they're going to say, but those questions there, and I'll have more of this on the notes, more specific, are not your opinion or mine. It's the opinion of like the next door neighbor often. And they just may have, something may not bother them that would bother 9 out of 10 people. So anyway, I think we're at our time to stop. Let me just, let me go to another slide here. Having a little bit of a technical problem. But anyway, I'm going to end here because I like to end on time. Let me do a little ad. And there's no money involved. If you would like me to do this seminar, and I have another 90 minutes of material, I go on forever, been doing it, 3 decades. You can write me to your office in person, usually, if it's Southern California, or on Zoom. There is no cost whatsoever. I do not charge anything whatsoever. I'm sponsored by service providers like we had today. And so you can always invite me in. I'll give you there's a technical difficulty with this program. and the way it's being broadcast. I'll give you my phone number, and let me give it to you verbally if you want to call me. And I have plenty to do. I'm not scrounging for work. I've been doing this for a long time. But if you'd like me to come to your office or do it on Zoom, my website is disclosureinfo at AOL.com, one of the few remaining members of AOL. Disclosure info is one word. My phone number, I'd usually be showing this to you on a screen, but I'm having a technical problem here. 619-987-2622. Again, 619-987-2622. So I'm going to say goodbye to everybody, and I'll stop the sharing or bail out of here. And thank you very much for attending. I have a lot more information. You can invite me to your office. I can cover a lot more than I did today because of the limitation in time. But thank you very much for attending. I really appreciate it. And goodbye, and hope to see you another time and perhaps go to your office. Thanks. Bye.